Well, hello and welcome to Manx Radio's Countryside with Kiri Kermode and Simon Clark. The last in this current series, Kiri, but packed full of, well, all sorts. Ice cream, books and poultry and marts.
A full Christmas dinner.
Yeah. I went along to the book launch of Good Clean Fun, which is a book that Jill Drower has written, and it's got some wonderful, wonderful stories about the Cunninghams camp, which opened in the Isle of Man, believed to be Britain's first holiday camp. So a very interesting chat I had with Jill. I went around the ice cream factory and you couldn't make it.
I know.
With Ian and Greg Davison went round there, and a wonderful setup that they've got there, and telling us about the Manx produce they're using in that. So that was a wonderful trip. You can listen to that. And you went to see Peter Quayle.
Yes, a very busy man, Peter Quayle, throughout the whole of the year with the machinery sales and the livestock sales. But this one, the Christmas poultry sale, it's always a special one out there at Knockale. So if you are free, get out there and have a sing-song and a mince pie and just join in the festivities. It's a great day to get your Christmas dinner.
It is indeed. Here all is then in this week's Countryside. Well, first, Kiri, what do you know about holiday camps? Have you ever been to Butlins or any of the Alton Towers, or whatever they call any of them?
No, not really. We have visited some of the parks with the Isle of Man Athletics Club, on our night times out, but I've never stayed at any of them. But great fun had by all. Lots of people go to centre parks now with families, and especially at Christmas time. It's really magical, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the Cunningham's holiday camp, which was originally at the Housedrake here, just off Onken Head, that was supposedly Britain's first holiday camp. And there's a new book being launched by author Jill Drower, who has been heavily involved in it and a big connection with it as well. The book is called Good Clean Fun. And I firstly congratulated her on the book launch and said to her that it's proved popular by the amount of people that's turned up.
Yes, it's been very nice to have so many people here. Yeah, and the shops have been fantastic too. We've had quite a lot of interest there. So
Yeah.
It's been absolutely everything I could have wanted.
Now, the history of Cunningham's camp isn't just a particular interest of yours. It's been part of your life, hasn't it?
Yes, well, my great-grandfather and great-grandmother were the couple who started the holiday camp in the first place. So I've always had a family interest, especially my mother, who adored holiday camps and took us to holiday camps as children. We didn't really know the connection until she started telling us, and she showed me a Camp Herald once when I was about 12 or 13. So I think that's when I got interested and I realised that there was a big connection, because all the things that were happening at Butlins were also things that had happened many decades before at Cunningham's.
When you say about the influential in the holiday camps, basically it was the start of them, the first sort of ones, wasn't it?
Yes.
And how far back does it go?
Well, Cunningham himself said in his brochures from 1887, and I think that was their first outings in Liverpool. But I think you could say that it's definitely was a holiday camp by 1898, because in our modern understanding of a holiday camp, they would have it was a mass holiday. It was you didn't do any chores, which on a camping holiday you would do, and there was all this camaraderie and entertainment, emphasis on sport, have-a-go talent competitions. All those were there from 1890. You could definitely say from 1898 those were features of the holiday camp. And by the way, I think that Cunningham coined the term holiday camp. That's the furthest back I've got. It points to it being Cunningham who invented that expression to differentiate it from military camps like the Boys Brigade. So he wanted to make it different, to show that it was leisure, not military.
Now, he started it, I think, because he's seen a lot of strife and trouble that youngsters could get into at that time.
Absolutely, it was very much philanthropic in its beginnings, and he was born and brought up in the most difficult area of Liverpool, which was the North End, and there were brothels and beer houses on every street. It was full of crime, lots of antisocial behaviour. And this is what he grew up in this district of town. And he was very aware from early on of the terrible poverty. I mean, total destitution, an infant mortality rate of about 50%. I don't know the exact figure, but it's in the book. And so he was very struck by that. He was an evangelist from early on.
Yeah. But this, I suppose, just started with trying to help a few people, even if you help a dozen people, to get through and give them something to do. This just caught on, didn't it?
Yes. Well, I think there was the belief, it was muscular Christianity, and there was a thought that if you could get kids out into the countryside, breathing fresh air and doing sports, and if you could give them a training in a skill such as shorthand or metalwork, then they would be able to make something of their lives. And this was terribly important to him, and that's how it started. That's how his work started, really, with gospel halls and then linking up into these working lads institutes.
What was the reason for it just being the boys, really? Then was it because the girls weren't in trouble? Or?
Well, you have to look back. I mean, it's one of the difficult things of social history is you have to not jump to conclusions, but the other things, you mustn't judge things by modern standards. I mean, if you go back to the 19th century and you think of a typical school, it would have a boys' entrance and a girls' entrance, and boys and girls, men and women, were seen as living in complementary but separate spheres. And it was just such a different attitude. I mean, if you look at bathing, they wouldn't have had mixed bathing, and to them it was unthinkable. So it's just, the values of that time.
Yeah. I mean, it came to the Isle of Man, though, then.
Yes, it came to the Isle of Man through the Florence Institute, and the idea actually came from Elizabeth Cunningham, and one of the bits in the book is to show that actually it was a team effort. It wasn't just Joseph Cunningham on his own, and it was Elizabeth Cunningham who looked at an advert in Liverpool and wanted to take her two little toddlers away on holiday, and saw how there's an advert for Laxey saying it was a wonderful holiday resort, and so she took her boys there, and that's how the first camping holiday ended up in the Isle of Man. And from there it grew, and it was a great success, and everybody loved it here. It's a beautiful place, lots of fresh air, rural charm, and so that's how it caught on.
Some marvellous pictures in the book and illustrations about how they were with them, sort of some like Indian-looking tents in a way,
yes,
all lined up, and because of the Manx weather, it had to move, did it?
Yeah, well, it was first of all, it was at Housedrake, and it was very windswept, and it was a cliff edge basically, and it did it was 1903 that 60 of the tents were blown down, and it really did have to go to Douglas. But what changed when they went to Douglas was that the rural retreat and this idyllic, bucolic setting was moved to a thriving holiday resort. And to be there and to be able to go down to Douglas Seafront, go to the Gaiety and do dancing and meet female company, that was the big thing that changed it. So that it stopped being men only. Of course, it was men only in terms of the camping fields, but they had lots of access to meeting people. So it became, it would have gone viral. If we'd used today's terms, you'd say it went viral.
Yeah, it's the sort of start of the change of things.
Yes,
it? Yeah.
It really was.
And the way it went through. And of course, in Douglas, as you said, Douglas was a massive holiday resort. Was it starting then?
Well, it was seen as an exotic place, and it was seen as an absolute thriving holiday resort, and it had so much going for it, and it was a magnet for people. Really, it was very popular.
Well, we heard about change there, with the men meeting up with the girls and things, and being able to enjoy life a bit more. I mean, but things moved on, I suppose, in the sort of holiday and the holiday camp market, did it?
Yeah, well, I think that the great sort of time we think about is the 50s and the early 60s, but I would say by the 60s it was beginning to be challenged very much by package holidays. And I mean, we think now of, holidays, suitcases with wheels, all inclusive, all done online. This was all going to come up, and you could see the beginnings of the end of the holiday camp by the mid-60s and early 70s.
And when did it close?
It closed in 1939 because of the war, but in 45 they decided not to open it again, and they decided to sell on to Douglas Holiday Camp Syndicate. So, but it seemed to go downhill at that point because it was a fantastically difficult thing to run, and the Cunninghams had been in baking and catering for generations.
How many were they serving at the dinners?
2,500
in the one go.
Well, 2,500, I think, probably in 1999. And when Billy Butlin started, it was about 800 in Skegness. So it was very large scale catering very early on, and they were good at it because they were large scale caterers anyway from Liverpool, doing bakery, had it in the bakery trade. So when you got sort of investors deciding to run the holiday camp, I think it was a whole different thing. They didn't have the experience of the kitchens. They didn't have the years of experience. So that's part of its decay.
But the book tells it in words and wonderful pictures as well. And it's
they're lovely pictures, and I'm grateful for thank you. But there was great generosity from the people who had the illustrations, so I'm grateful to that too.
I was talking there to Jill Drower, the author of the book Good Clean Fun, and that's available from all good bookshops around the Isle of Man, and also if you can't get it on there, you can get it from the Amazon Marketplace. Not sure you can get it from Castletown Marketplace or anything like that, but have a go at trying. But really interesting that, the ideas that they had to try and save them people from them bad areas getting into trouble all the time and setting up this camp. And, it's just a marvellous thing. And look where it brought, Butlins went on from there and, believed to be the Britain's first holiday camp, which was just something special. Just men only, though, Kiri.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, how things have changed. But no, what an opportunity for those men and to escape some of the poverty, like in Liverpool and places like that. It must have been just such a relief. And the Isle of Man is such a tranquil, safe place as well. And, down on the harbour there and on the promenade where it was always so full of people, back in those days. So it must be nice to meet new friends.
Yeah, it's a fascinating book and sort of very close connection that Jill's got with it as well, with the great grandparents and everything involved in it. And of course, there's illustrations of the books, the pictures in it, absolutely wonderful. That's make a wonderful Christmas present for somebody. But Kiri, the last mart of the year is coming up, I think, as well.
Yes, a very special time, the Christmas Mart coming up right before Christmas on the Saturday there. And I catch up with Peter Quayle to hear a roundup of the year of the Suckler calf sales and the breeding ewe sales. Peter, well, that's the end of another year with Central Marts. Well, just about anyway. How has the year been for the breeding stock?
It's been a strange sort of a year. I think it's been weather related. The sheep sales, they went probably better than we thought. Ram sales were down a little bit or quite a bit at times, but everybody realises that there has to be reductions in prices. Just the way the trade is away as well, and it hasn't been helped by some of the problems at the meat plant. I always seem to pick on the meat plant, but just the slow booking system and the unknown time of waiting for stock to go in, and then it's like another month then afterwards before they're paid. So it's like 3 or 4 months for selling lambs, which is just very difficult to work around. So that's had an impact on some of our sales. The calf sales, they went reasonably well. It has been a concern that quite a few people have been selling cows this year, so that's the end of them, the end of the suckler herds, of some of the herds, and some of them are our best customers. So we won't have as many cattle to sell next year because those cattle are no longer about. There's other people going out of sheep as well, so the whole industry seems to be downsizing, and that's worrying.
It is really worrying, and you see the prices away, they have collapsed a little bit, and it does, like you say, Peter, knock on to here. But the price of lamb at the minute in the meat plant seems to be good, and you've got a good sale on Wednesday of more lambs.
Yes, we've got some lambs and some cattle in tomorrow, which is unusual for this time of year, but hopefully there'll be some trade. There's some good crops of rape about, so the lambs will be hopefully in demand. There are good prices at the meat plants. We can't argue about that, and there are good prices for cattle, but it's just that getting them in on the times when you want them, when they're ready, and that's the part that the new committee don't seem to have been able to work around.
Yeah, it must be that communication. It needs to be, spread, in newsletters or whatever, farmer meetings with the committee to keep us up to speed, because, it's business focus. The farmers need to know so they can produce the stock when it's really wanted.
Yes, I mean, we've got Tim Baker, who's very enthusiastic and helpful, Phil Parsons and others on the committee who seem to have their hearts in the right place, but it's just not getting right through in the right way. But maybe for next year, they might turn things around and make things more clearer, more transparent, and certainly helpful on selling our stock.
Definitely. And a really happy occasion coming up, Peter, with the annual Christmas poultry sale this Saturday.
Yes, it doesn't seem long since last year, the last poultry sale, but we have a Father Christmas, we have the Crosby Silver Band. It all starts at 1:00. Then we have a few carols for half an hour, and then we sell some good Manx turkeys, some geese, hopefully ducks and chickens as well.
It's a great turnout. The general public love coming to see it, and it's a great time of year, isn't it, with all the decorations around the mart, and sometimes we even have an ice sculpture.
We do. I'm not sure the ice sculptor's away at the moment, but he does turn up with some good things at times. Yes, it is. It's the end of the year, and a bit of fun, and quite a lot of money is usually raised for charity, which is always nice to finish off.
But it's always nice as well, Peter. It's not just the poultry side. There's lots of veg. There's people selling other wares as well. You can get a full Christmas dinner. Yes,
there's a good assortment. We've got Sheila Gorn with the vegetables, as good as anybody. And we're hoping to have other people selling maybe some meats as well. So come along. We always have a good crowd. We've got plenty of room for parking. Just hope the weather's kind. But it goes on regardless.
This is it. So that's out at Knockalo at 1:00 on Saturday.
Saturday the 22nd, yes.
That was Peter Quayle from Central Marts talking about the year and the forthcoming Christmas mart.
He's a mighty ambassador, Peter. There's not much flusters him, really, is it? He's a good, calm sort of character. Well, that's what we see of him.
He does really well weekly at those marts, getting the bids out of the farmers. And when it's a sticky time in agriculture, he's there battling away, and some cattle take a good few minutes to sell, but he always gets usually the price that the farmer wants. But the Christmas mart is always a special time with the silver band and all the tinsel and decorations that his family and the mart staff go to put up around the mart. So that is a really, really nice festivity, to go along to that if you can.
Yeah, and long may that sort of continue, that sort of event, the work that they put in to give it that feel that it is Christmas, isn't it?
It's a real point in the calendar now, and so many public come, and it's not just turkeys and geese, there's lots of other things. There's wreaths and vegetables and wooden ware and different little crafts that are around the Isle of Man will come together that day. So it's not just poultry, there's lots of other things, and there's always a great mince pie there.
You're listening to Countryside here on Manx Radio with Kiri Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. Well, I'm going to wet your lips now, Kiri, and talk about ice cream. And I was invited round to Davison's Ice Cream Factory in Peel by Ian and Greg to have a look around their factory, and of course the amount of Manx produce that they're using in there to produce this Isle of Man ice cream. And I went to the factory, met them there to have a look around. Firstly, I spoke to Ian, who put it to him that he's got some new machinery looking there.
Yeah, it is, Simon. We've invested heavily this year. We've bought new machinery in. The other machinery we've had from brand new, and it's 22 years old, and it was just coming to really sort of the end of its working life, and we had to consider our future, and then we've decided to buy and invest in new machinery which quadruples our production capacity here in Peel.
It is a big commitment, isn't it? Because obviously there's probably a lot of competition out here, and you've decided to take the plunge with going forward with this machinery. Probably not a fiver in Moocher's market, this stuff.
No, I mean our investment this year, there's £300,000 worth of new machines here.
Wow.
Yeah, there is. It's a very competitive market, the ice cream market. I mean, we're up against English companies bringing in ice cream into the Isle of Man, using cheaper ingredients than we can buy here, using things like palm oil, vegetable fats, and we try to use everything obviously that's local, which unfortunately has an added value to it. So we're paying more money to use local, but the quality of the product that we produce is just that much better. And grass-fed cows is superior to what comes in from the UK.
I know there might be some secret ingredients in your own ice cream. I'm not asking you to reveal them, but I mean, is the fundamental basis of ice cream fairly simple, a lot of ingredients?
Yeah, over the years we've adapted our recipe, and I think our ice cream at the present time, I don't think we could do anything to it to make it any better than what it is. Each manufacturer, they're all secret, so they all hang on to their own ideas. They'll never divulge really what goes in, but the overall basics are good quality Isle of Man milk, Isle of Man cream, English sugar, and that's your three good ingredients in ice cream.
Right. Obviously, the trouble, I suppose, is that there's nobody producing some of the ingredients here on the island, and I suppose the bulk of ice cream is milk and cream in that side of it, is it?
It is. I mean, we do obviously have to use some ingredients, so we have to buy in from the UK. So we do use a milk powder, which is unfortunate, but there's no milk powder producer here on the island, and we buy in English milk powder, so we're not buying it in from the continent. Either English or Irish milk powders, and we use sugar, which is British. It's usually Tate and Lyle.
You've recently won quite a few awards and got the proper labels for your Isle of Man made ice cream as well, with the support in the local trades. I mean, the investment that you've put in as well, I mean, do you get the government behind you on these sort of schemes?
Well, over the years, we've entered the ice cream competitions for many years. We've probably got near on 300 different diplomas. We've won gold medals. We've missed the Champions of Champions Cup, which at the ICA, which is the Ice Cream Alliance competitions in Harrogate, and we've missed the Supreme Champions Cup on 2 occasions by half a mark. But we've got numerous gold medals at the ice cream competitions. Going to financial assistance from the Isle of Man government, we haven't had any, unfortunately. We did actually apply to get financial assistance, and I felt this year we were kicked in the teeth by the department, and we've bought all of our machinery without any assistance from the Isle of Man government, and we'd like to take the credit, obviously, ourselves for having to do what we do without any financial assistance being given to us.
That is encouraging. The encouraging side of that is that you must think there's a future here, because it's a nice family-run business you got.
Yeah, we've been going, I think, ice cream side now for 27 years, and it's run by, my father came into the business when he retired. He used to work at the hospital, and when he retired, he came to work into the business. And my oldest boy, Greg, he is here. He does all of our production capacity. And he's doing all the production and looking after all the machinery. So it's nice to have a continuing family business here. It's a Manx, we're Isle of Man people, so it's nice to keep on going.
Exports as well. Does much of your ice cream go off the island, and is this part of the reason for the expansion?
Yeah, the expansion, we can see that the Isle of Man is a limited market. Obviously, it's a shame, but the tourism figures have dropped again for this year. And we need to be able to keep on expanding, really, the business. And we're looking at the UK market. We have sent ice cream into Ireland this year. And we've sent ice cream out to United Arab Emirates. We supplied the royal family in UAE.
Never. Wow.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
They were actually here on the island. We had supplied some of the ice cream, and some of the royal family had been here on the Isle of Man, which then led to a shipment being picked up at Ronaldsway via private jet. And we have then, in the last month, actually sent our first order out to United Arab Emirates, to Dubai, to supply the royal family. And we did get good help from the environmental health here, because there was obviously different criteria we had to meet in order to get our shipment out. And we got good help from, well, I'll name the guy, Dougie Stewart, who's one of the environmental health officers. Dougie was really good, came down, had invaluable help for us.
Because I suppose there's a lot of areas to have got to tick boxes with these sort of live products, so to speak, is there?
Yeah, we just got to make sure that everything that we didn't want the shipment to arrive in Dubai, end up in customs, and then not be able to be released because we didn't have the correct documentation in place. So it's taken a good few months. With consultation with the British Embassy, we were had video call with the head of business at the British Embassy in Dubai, in order that we met all the criteria, and with the Chamber of Commerce here on the Isle of Man, we had to have a certificate of origin to send our product away, and it did take a few months, but we managed to get everything in place, and with the help of DEFRA and Dougie Stewart, we had all the certification, and everything went first class.
So now with this, the production can be higher, so you can sort of look further afield. Is that the case?
Yeah, I mean, we'd like to export into the UK market, into England. There's a big market there. There is for the quality of product that we produce. There's an awful lot of producers in the UK making ice cream, but there's not many of them making good stuff. That's the difference. We like to think that our ice cream is up there with the top manufacturing companies in the UK, and I think, I can name on sort of one hand all the ones that win all the ICA medals, and they all produce ice cream to the same sort of standard as we, but there's very, very few of them.
They can produce it cheaper though.
Well, they can, because they obviously haven't got that stretchy water, so they're not having to ship any form of ingredients in. They can buy cheaper across. However, the ones that are shipping in, that are making the cheaper ice cream, are using cheap ingredients like whey powders and palm oil. We don't use anything like that in ours. We could cheapen our mix, but everybody in the Isle of Man's got to know what Davison's ice cream tastes like, and that's the way it's going to remain for as long as we stay in business.
So Greg, just talk us through the process then here. What's the first thing that happens when you're going to start a batch of ice cream?
Well, the first thing that would happen is obviously we would get the cream in from either the Isle of Man Creameries, who are our biggest supplier of cream. We also buy from Ale and Dairies in Sulby and Cool Brothers of Port Erin. So that would be the first thing that would come into us. All the ingredients then on the same day as coming into us would then be boiled up in our tanks. So before ice cream's frozen down, we have to boil it, which is a pasteurisation process. It basically kills any of the harmful bacteria that might be still present in the milk, although over on the island every bit of milk that usually comes in has to be pasteurised anyway before it's shipped out. So it would be coming into us pasteurised already, but we then pasteurise further on just to make sure and to take that risk element away. All the ingredients would then go into our tanks, as I said, heated up. They then go through our processing equipment, which along the way breaks down the fat particles within the ice cream in order for them to basically seal together and stop them from separating when they get pumped into our holding tanks. After they've been beaten up in the homogenizer, they go through a thing called a plate cooler. The plate cooler will then take the mix, so the mix will be going in at about 78 degrees, and within 3 seconds it'll be coming out the other end at 2 degrees.
Wow.
And that chill process stops any bacteria from growing again. So the faster you can take it down from that temperature, is the quicker, or is the least bacteria can grow in it. It then gets pumped out at 3 degrees into our holding tanks, where it can stay for a maximum of 7 days before we then process it further into ice cream.
Wow, and the two Holden tanks today, well, you got 4 there, but 2 have got the stuff in them that you've been making. You've been making chocolate today, and real chocolate in it as well.
Yeah, so the same base mix makes all of our ice creams. So the only one that's slightly different is the chocolate, which you were lucky enough to see today. We're coming out. We use proper chocolate in our chocolate ice cream, but we have to add it into the boiling process, because if you were to add it in when it was at 3 degrees, it wouldn't melt. So we add it in while it's in the boiling tanks, which allows the chocolate to melt, and then it's then pumped into the Holden tanks from there. But yes, it is proper chocolate that we use within it.
And this mighty machine over here with the pipe on, not much good to the listener, but the tubs are lined up there. That doesn't seem an automatic process, though.
No, everything, although we use machineries within the process, the continuous freezer, which freezes down the base mix that is pumped into the Holden tanks, when it comes out of the continuous freezer, everything is still filled by hand, so it's a very hands-on process in which we do it. Up until 2 years ago, we were still adding inclusions by hand, so as the tubs were being filled, I would be sprinkling in things like the honeycomb, the choc chips into mint choc chip. I'd be sprinkling them in by hand.
Wow.
In layers in amongst the ice cream. But 2 years ago we purchased a fruit feeder which connects onto the continuous machine and automatically puts them inclusions in for me, but it evenly spreads them throughout, whereas when I was doing it, it was only being put in layers.
Even the little tubs from the Gaiety Theatre and things?
Yep, even the little tubs from the Gaiety Theatre. So we have...
Well, not so little.
No, we have an automatic filler, but all it does is deposit a small amount of ice cream in. We then have to lid each tub coming off, and then we pack it into crates and freeze it down. But the tubs come off at 1 a second. Wow. So we make cups every month. We make 2 or 3 times a month, and we make 10,000 at a time. So because everything is put into crates and the lids are all put on by hand, by the end of the day my hand's ready to fall off. So.
Well, the chocolate ice cream in the Holden tank there, when could that be ate as ice cream?
Well, the minute it's pumped into the Holden tank, so I could be on the machine, I could be on the continuous freezer as the mix is going into the Holden tank, sucking it out and making it into ice cream. It's that quick.
And it could be ate a few hours later?
Yeah, it could be ate a few hours later. So all of the mix that comes out of the continuous freezer is exactly the same as Whippy. So a lot of people don't realise this. They think a Whippy ice cream is completely different. In most cases they're right, because a lot of companies over here use a UHT mix, which is like a long life mix. But all of our Whippy mix is fresh, and we use the same base mix for our Whippy mix as we do for our ice cream. So
it's just not as frozen?
It's just not as frozen.
Right.
So every bit of ice cream that comes out of a continuous freezer is Whippy. The only difference is that it's then put into a tub and it's frozen down to -25, and it's held at -25 until it goes into our customers, where it'll be then put down to a storage at -18. Whippy is about -6, and that's the only difference between our Whippy ice cream and our normal ice cream, is the temperature.
Wow. We're in December now and you're still making ice cream. The weather's not that warm out.
No, I think because we're all hardy Manxies, we all tend to eat ice cream regardless of whatever the weather. So on a Sunday afternoon you can come down to Peel Parlour, and you'll find rows and rows of cars parked outside with people eating ice cream.
What's your favourite flavour?
I'm boring, to be honest with you. I like vanilla.
Davison and his dad Ian Davison from Davison's Ice Cream, with their factory at Peel that I went round, and the investment they put in there, Kiri, absolutely wonderful. They're transforming their machines so they can maybe broaden it to export more, because they can say now, oh yes, we can produce that sort of amount. So that's the reason behind that investment, of course, and using all that locally produced and Manx milk and cream, and as much as the ingredients as you possibly can get here on the island, which is fabulous.
It really is a great omen for the Manx dairy farmers. The quality that goes into the products. Those cows are part of the GRAS accreditation scheme, so they're out in our fields around the Isle of Man for so many days of the year. Compared to other parts of the world where some of those cows never see daylight. Really, the grass is all brought to them. So that's definitely got to be something special in the quality of that ice cream used there in Peel.
Yeah, and just so enthusiastic. You walk around there with them and the passion they've got for it, and they say, well, we could make cheaper ice cream by buying cheaper ingredients, but that's not why they're in it for, which was a nice touch, I think, that they said.
And that's it. And to keep reinventing all the different flavours, it's everything in there, isn't there now? And what's your favourite?
My favourite used to be rum and raisin. I've gone to a raspberry ripple. Do you know what the most popular is?
Go on.
Have a guess.
Chocolate has to be.
Vanilla is still the most popular.
Wow.
And the second most popular on the Isle of Man is a relatively new one.
Oh,
salted caramel.
Goodness me.
Yeah.
But Ian also sponsors a lot of the agricultural events too. We must remember these people keep putting back into the Manx economy as well, don't they? They support the local farmers in what they do. So the appreciation is there from us too to him.
It is. Well, that wraps it up like a Christmas present, Kiri, doesn't it? The last in this current series of Countryside. We're back in February with the new series. Thank you very much indeed. You've been a joy to be sitting opposite me in this series of Countryside. Our producer, Sarah Hendy, we must thank her for the work she's done in this series as well. And great ice cream we fitted in, books, and the Mart as well this week.
It's really special. The Isle of Man is full of great, great people, organisations and associations that make our job so much easier, Simon. We've got so much to report and so little time a lot of the time, isn't there?
Yeah, there is indeed. All right, we look forward to seeing you then. But until February, have a great Christmas, a wonderful New Year from the team here at Manx Radio and Countryside. And from me, Simon Clark.
And me, Kiri Kermode.
We'll see you next year. Ta-da.
Bye-bye.